I'll always tell it like it is, that's the bottom line. If you just living to exist, you on borrowed time. Don't ever let them take your soul, no, no, no. Don't ever let them take your soul, no, no, no. I'll always tell it like it is, that's the bottom line. If you just living to exist, you on borrowed time. Don't ever let them take your soul, no, no, no. Don't ever let them take your soul, no, no, no. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Yeah, that's the bottom. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Wahlberg here from The Bottom Line, and I want to welcome you back. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done an episode. Still a lot going on in the world. We still have a pandemic going on. We have, unrest going on. We have so much going on in terms of in the mental health space, in the addiction space. We did an opioid youth summit, a virtual event a couple of days ago, and I got new numbers from the DEA about people that have overdosed, both fatal overdoses and non-fatal overdoses. And I can tell you that this pandemic has taken so many people with addiction and just put them in a place where they have been unable to return. And so we keep them in our prayers. But today we have a very, very special guest, a friend of mine who, as you guys know, most of my guests have been people that I know personally. And it's important to me because I know their truth, and I know that their truth will be impactful to people. And so today we have an NBA Hall of Famer, 2 times. In the Hall of Fame 2 times. I didn't know you could do that, right? In the Hall of Fame 2 times. He was on the original Dream Team, right? And he'll tell us who else was on that team, because I know a couple of the guys, but not all of the guys. But also, has spent his entire life in the limelight, and has been very honest, I think, from time to time about some of the bumps along the way in living in the limelight. But I mean, this guy has done it all in his profession, a professional basketball player who has gotten every award. I mean, how do you get, Chris, ladies and gentlemen, my friend Chris Mullin. Chris, how do you get in the Hall of Fame twice?
I snuck in once with the Dream Team.
Yeah.
And then went in as an individual player in 2011. Jimmy, it's great to see you, man. You look great.
Thank you, buddy.
So good to see you, and good research, by the way. You did a little reading up on my.
No, I mean, it's all right here. Listen, this is a big. I almost broke my printer on the Wikipedia alone, right? I mean, this is like 12, 15 pages of usable stuff, and then there's a bunch of stuff that's just numbers, right? But the truth of the matter is that you. I have to say, Brooklyn's in the house, right? Do I have to say that when you come on? Do I have to say Brooklyn's in the house? Yep. So. Just for the audience.
From a guy from New England. A guy from New England, we make you guys say that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I bow down to you, brother. Don't worry. So just for a little background, so you and I had a mutual friend who we lost not long ago, Penny Marshall. And Penny, a true New York girl, she had constantly been saying to me, "Oh, you gotta meet Chrissy. You gotta meet Chrissy. You gotta meet Chrissy." And then we finally ran into each other in Vegas in a hotel in the gym, right? You were in there putting in work, and I just introduced myself, and instantly I felt the warmness. I felt the connection. We right out of the gate just started talking about stuff, because we knew that there was a commonality, right? That we had traveled some of the same road. Clearly, my road went a whole different way at a certain point. But I appreciated that about you, and that because I've met a lot of people, right? Being in my life the way it is now, and being, having the people that I'm related to and the success that they've had. I've been fortunate to meet a lot of people, and I wish I could say all of them were really nice, but that wouldn't be true. But you was a different thing, man. I felt an instant connection to you. And so it's a joy to have you here. I thank you in advance for just your yes, right? Because like, I'm not a professional journalist, right? I'm not a TV star. I'm just a regular guy trying to carry a message, trying to serve my community, if you will. And I reached out to you and you were just like, sure, I'd be happy to help out, whatever I can do. And that means the world to me. And I know it means a lot to my audience because many people are, they're living their life and they're sort of keeping things compartmentalized and separate and out of the public eye. And I think it's important for people in the public eye, whenever they feel comfortable, to share their journey so that people feel that connection, they understand that it's not just them and it doesn't just happen somewhere else. So what I'd like to do now, if it's okay with you, Chris, is I really just want to turn the show over to you, right? And I'd love you to take me back to Brooklyn for when you were a kid and what it was like and what happened and what it's like now.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, so very appropriate timing, right? With like, and you mentioned the pandemic and all these things that are going on in the world. And as we kind of apply our experiences to every day, right? How are we gonna, get through our day is part of our experiences in the past. Some of our goals we're looking forward to doing in the future. So to me, the whole world is in recovery. When I look at the problems we're dealing with, whether it be racism, inequality, justice for all, Black Lives Matter, all these different incredible things that we're dealing with, to me, if you applied the 12 steps, we'd be in a much better place as a world, as a planet. My story has a lot of different twists and turns, as we all do, right? Grew up in a great Irish Catholic family, mom and dad loving. I was the middle of 5 children, Irish Catholic neighborhood, went to church every Sunday. I had a great childhood. Still have a lot of my best friends are from my neighborhood in Brooklyn. In our neighborhood, there were a bunch of pizzerias, a bunch of bagel shops, churches, and bars. And the bars that's what you did when you got mature. You went to the bar and hung out with your boys and had a good time. And then that's what we did. And it was fine for a while. I'm not one of those guys that look back and not every day was terrible. I had some really good times. I have to admit that. And I liked them. That was my part of my problem is I really liked it. And I had that euphoric recall. I can only remember the good times. I could black out the early mornings and get to that nighttime. And, and then through high school, things would, like I said, a regular kid going out drinking on the weekends. And then I went on to St. John's University, played 4 years there. That's where things picked up a little bit in college. You have more access. Obviously, being a New York City kid, hanging out in the city in the 80s. We all know how things were rolling back then in Wall Street. Everyone was making a lot of money. So I'd like to say I did my research in the streets. I got my experience. And, there was a lot of access for me. And was able to keep it not under control, but under wraps because of people were protecting me.
Sure.
Protecting my reputation. So as I said, as the twists and turns, these things always come back. They're going to come to light. Your actions, your habits, and your actions are going to come out, right? When and where, we don't know. So lo and behold, after my 4 years at St. John's, I was into partying. Part of my routine was to celebrate. As Irish Catholics, we celebrate weddings, we celebrate funerals, birthdays, communions, confirmation. It doesn't matter. We celebrate the same way.
Right.
That was part of my routine. After a good game, we partied because we won. After a bad game, we partied because we got screwed. It was a bad call or something like that. So we always had a reason to get together and let it all out. That was my problem. That's where I let my emotions out. And it was not real. It was fake. It was false release of emotions. When I came out to California, I got drafted by Golden State, came out to California. First time I left home, really, for any extended period of time. Now I'm by myself. Now I've got to navigate these emotions without, the protection of people covering for me, without family around me. So I was kind of out on an island, and that's where I got exposed. So here I am, 85, 86, on a Golden State team, struggling, away from home. And these are not excuses, these are the facts, right? So now you get back to your place, you're by yourself, you have no, what are you gonna do? I go back to my routine. Let me get a few beers, let me hang out, let me get rid of these feelings. I don't like the way I feel. I'm not gonna talk to somebody, that would be weak. I'm a strong athlete, I deal with anything. I make clutch shots, this is what I do. So I'll just deal with this. Those things kept bottling up to where it got to the point where, for the first time, I wasn't enjoying anything I was doing. I was one of those kids, you couldn't keep me off the basketball court. I was shoveling snow to go play in my backyard. I was sneaking into gyms, breaking windows to get in gyms. Now I'm skipping practice. Part of it's, maybe losing, all those other emotional things my feelings I was dealing with, but I was using. I was drinking, I was hungover, I was just getting to practice, and then I started missing practice. So here I am, 23, 24 years old, making great money, living in California, and I'm miserable. And much like the people that always cared for me and maybe protected me, they were the same people that came to me and said, you got a problem, dude. You need help. And it wasn't the first time I heard that. I had heard that, but they had told me I never heard it.
Yeah, sure.
But I remember it was in Alameda, California. I had missed practice. And I was walking with my agent. And he's like, what do you missed practice today, dude. Like, this is something you love to do.
Right.
And that's when it really hit me. Something that brought joy to my life and actually was a problem solver for me. Now I had nothing. There was no answers for me.
Yep.
And I got to admit, that was December 13th, 1987. And I went to rehab somewhat reluctantly, like most of us do. But was like the last. I wanted some answers. I wanted some clarification. Like, am I screwed up? Yep. Is there a reason for this? And I gotta say, like, the two biggest things that helped me was getting the education and the information of, and you mentioned earlier, of your family, genetics. There's reasons for these things. It doesn't have to all, and it's not bailout. They're legitimate. They make sense.
Yep. And
then the education of how you can change your daily behavior to change your overall personality. These personality defects that we have, just like I was training to be a great basketball player, you have to train to be spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, and physically healthy, and then finding the correct balance. That's what I found as I've gotten older, finding the balance of all of those factors. And they're all as important. And to me, there was a time in my life when I was younger, I just totally went into the physical. Spent my life in the gym, practice, and I got direct positive feedback right away. Because obviously I went to rehab, I came out, and I went 30, 40 days in season, came out, I took 2 weeks and went right back on the court. And I started playing great. So I got this direct physical feedback. Yep. Which was awesome. I think that helped my confidence, and this is working. As time went on, and as I got older, being abstinent was one thing, and being sober was another. Abstinence was a must for me to be able to participate in basketball. So I had to be abstinent. But I found out later the difference between abstinence and sobriety, and therein lies the difference between putting your time into physically taking care of yourself, which is important. There's a certain thing that you make feels good, you get a little rush, but then the spirituality part, which is the biggest part for me now, and then just mentally. You talked about the pandemic, people's mental state, right? The depression and just being thrown out of whack, and how that affects people's minds and the decision making. So over time, when I look back, there was so many different stages, right, of my not only my career, my life. It's natural. We all go through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being able to be balanced and being prepared for the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and not having that throw you off kilter totally. Death in the family, kids growing up and having problems, all these different things. But the beautiful thing is, you mentioned Penny, we've got other mutual friends.
Yep.
Just like the program, the network of people, the reliance on other people's stories, right? That you're not alone, that someone went through the same thing and they're doing okay. Doesn't have to be perfect, not perfection, progress.
Right.
And all those different sayings and slogans, as I get older, when I was younger, they were just words. I would say them. I didn't know what the hell they meant. They sounded good. So, I heard them, so I said them. But as you live your life that way, and they become your life. That is your life. That's my life.
Right.
So when I wake up, I get on my readings. I got 4 or 5 books I read every morning. And the great thing about that too is, during the call, I might read it in the afternoon. It has a totally different meaning to me. The same exact reading has a different meaning to me in midday because of some of the things that have transpired. Maybe a few phone calls or whatever's going on in my life, different meaning. But relying on those readings is important to me. Going to Zoom meetings. I got my Heron Project shirt on. I go to
Love
Zoom
that
meetings.
shirt.
Are really, really beautiful.
Yep.
And relying on people. And that's what, you mentioned the depression and mental state of people. Being by yourself and being in your own head's always been a problem for me. Trying to read someone else's mind is a bad place to be. That's why going to meetings and sharing, listening, right? A lot of times I'm on those Zoom meetings and, look, a lot of those kids are younger, right? Than us. But you know what? I always find something. I always hear something that's applicable to my life at that moment. That's why it's just great to be here, Jimmy, to share. Yeah, I said yes, but I get something out of this, man. This helps me, right? You got to give it away to keep it.
Amen.
And so your audience. So the message to me is to me that you talked about my basketball career. I did well through high school and college. When I started my NBA career, it was getting ready to end because of my addiction.
Right.
It was pretty much over in '87. You got to think back then. Not that it's the coolest thing to do, but it's a little more acceptable now to go to rehab.
Right.
And they got some nicer places too, I must admit.
Sure. Yeah.
I went to a hospital. I didn't go to a spa. I went to a legit hospital. Floor number 3 in Centinela Hospital in Inglewood, California. But the access to help, I think the willingness, the understanding that it's a disease, the stigma has been lifted a little bit. We should be all very grateful that we can have forums like this and be accepted. And so many people, you gain respect. But that wasn't always the case. If you had a drinking problem in the 50s and 60s, you were a bum and you stay away.
Yep.
You were disregarded from society.
Right.
Now we can share and help each other. And it's probably the greatest gift. Chris Heron, who we got a mutual friend there, the things that he's doing. I mean, to watch what he's doing is just incredible. And it just makes you want to do that. You want to emulate that.
Sure.
Let me be like him. And so, I just, my biggest thing now is remaining grateful, right? Look, there's a lot of bad things going on.
Yep.
But sometimes you have to search and force yourself to be grateful for your health, your family, all the basic things sometimes we take for granted. And then having that balance, finding that balance in life. No, I was going to say, remaining grateful, right? Understand where we came from, never being too far from those tough days, right? And then having that balance to move forward and being able to share and help others. That to me is pretty natural. You know, I've been part of a team based my whole life. Middle child of 5, basketball. You know, when you're on a basketball team, it's always about finding your role. You want to succeed. You want to build yourself up. You also got to do within the context of a teamwork, and then not be too overbearing. Right. You know, that's the other thing too. We talk a lot about in that gray area, right? You want honesty, but not to where you hurt somebody.
Right.
And you want to address situations, but you also want to know the right time. I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit better at listening to my higher power, when I should act, when I should stay back. And that's tricky too, because my personality is I'll put stuff off. Mm-hmm. So I can use that as, I'm just being, kind of patient, and I'm being doing, but also there's a fine line there where you just put it off. So,
you're procrastinating.
So then that's where the balance comes from. And I think the more in tune spiritually you are, you'll know when to act, and you'll know when to speak up. Right. It's not always, but there's a time when, and I think listening to those inclinations and listen to your higher power when you're supposed to act is important. Because I've always, again, we all have certain characteristics in our personality which we can hide behind some things too, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And finding that balance of being honest, when to jump into a conversation, when to help. You know, like we all want to help our peers, right? Our other friends and family and whoever, right. Your audience. And it's a way about, to me, it's not always being overly aggressive and reading the steps and telling what to do. Right, sometimes it's how you act.
Right.
Just what your daily habits, right? That's what I was saying too about this pandemic, all the things we're going through. I just see the 12 steps as the answer to almost anything.
Right.
Really. I mean, whether it be racism, justice for all, Black Lives Matter. Dude, it's just because you had, no racist acts yesterday doesn't mean that you're going to act like that. It's a daily reprieve. Right. What are you going to do today? Right. Just wake up, have a good day today. Make the right decisions for you, treat other people well. And that doesn't just happen. You have to work at that. And that's the one thing I've really kind of gravitated towards more, is comparing that to, from an athletic standpoint, which is my background, putting that work into sobriety, into spirituality, and then making it part of your day. If you do it long enough, then that, it's like muscle memory, right? Mm-hmm. Daily habits, man, daily habit. But you got to train yourself, because I know me, I'm trained the other way. I want to go the other way.
Sure. I was just here before we got started. I was talking to my guys because, I'm educating them as well throughout this process of doing all these shows and doing the work that we do, that, I could easily be that guy again. That guy that I used to be, even though it's been 30 years or 32 years, I can be that guy again. And the crazy thing is I don't need to pick up a drink or a drug to do that. All I have to do is take control again, right? Let me be in charge. Let me start thinking all the great things that are happening in my life is because I'm a great guy. And the truth of the matter is that I'm only as good as my spiritual condition today. So today, if I put the effort in today, then I get to be the best me I can be, right? And that's what I'm hearing from you. And that's, I think, the best advice that anyone's ever given me, right? In these years that I've been around, it's all about today, buddy. It ain't what you did yesterday, it ain't what you did last year, it isn't what you did in 87, right? It's what am I doing today to be the best version of me I can be? How am I staying closer to God? And how am I being of service? And that's what this is about. This is about being of service. There's no profit in this, right? It actually will cost a few dollars to do this, right? And it's all good because, we've been blessed to be in a position to do that, to be of service. And you talked about the shirt that you have on, and Chris he's a great man of service,
right? He's out there on the front lines every day. And he makes me proud because he's from my side of the country, right? He's from my little neck of the woods up there, and he's done some amazing things.
Fall River.
But I want to go back a little bit if I can, and I want to talk to you about, when you got to that place, you're missing practices, things are starting to unravel, people are aware, because it's many years ago now, right? It's not now, you alluded to that, right? This is mainstream now. People get in trouble, they go to rehab, right? And it's like part of the operation or the mode of operation, if you will, right? Everybody goes to rehab for many different things, right? But back then, people weren't doing that, and they weren't doing that publicly, and you did it during the season. And so was that like public knowledge that you went to rehab to deal with substance issues, or was it he's in the hospital or something else going on?
No, it was straight out. Part of the deal, with my parents and my agent at the time, was that I was going to come clean, or else it wasn't going to work anyway. Which was that, and that was also the reason it took so long. The apprehension, the stigma at that point in time, and so my feelings were 100% failure.
Right.
Loser, failure. Basically, you're a bum.
Right.
You let your family down, you let your organization down, you let your teammates down, you coach everybody. Again, so as we're going through these tough times, that's how I felt, and and they were legitimate feelings. And looking back now, as opposed to being like in my mind the death of my career, the death of everything I've worked up until that point, it was the birth. It was the rebirth of everything. First, like I said earlier, first and foremost, I saw the positive results on the court. But then as I got more into the program, started finding some better balance, I got incredible payback just in serenity, dude. Like that to me, there's no, you talked about being in the limelight, being on the dream team, all-star game, all these different things. To me, there's nothing better than being comfortable in your own skin. And being okay where you are right now. Right. I'm here with you, dude. I don't want to be anywhere else right now with you speaking about this topic. I'm not distracted. And I that was the thing when I always had to be, I think they have, they call it what, it's like this phobia, the missing out.
Yeah. That was my life. Yeah, you feel like you're missing something somewhere else.
Like I'm missing out. Yeah, if I'm here, I got to hit every party. Everyone's got to know where I'm at, dude. Like being okay with being okay is an awesome feeling, especially when you didn't have that. So the simple things in life, right? The keep it simple, stupid, right? That old saying.
Yep.
And we talked about one day at a time. All these things that as you get older, man, it makes total sense, and it gets a little easier to do as you get older. Because quite frankly, when you're younger, you just got that crazy energy, just physical energy. But as you get older, when it is easy, it's also, I think, to me, a little bit easier to relay that message to the younger generation. I'm about 28, 29 years old. My dad's sick, and I'm talking to him about, you want to go to Ireland? Where do you want to go, Dad? What do you want to do? And he was like, I just want to sit in the backyard, be with my kids, be with my grandkids. I'm good right here. And that serenity, being just okay where you are, to me is such a gift, right? That's something to be grateful for. And when you're younger, you always think you got to keep moving and keep running around. And we all know it's not where you are. It's not who you're with. It's, are you okay with yourself? Right. How are you inside? Are you healthy? Are you spiritually grounded to be okay at this moment?
You said a couple of things. You said a few times about certain things about you that sort of come with age, right? And, like having patience and just different things like that. And it made me think about the fact that if we didn't get this at the tender age that we both got it at, right? So you were a little older than me when you found this gift of recovery. I was 22 years old in state prison, right? And that's when but I related to what you were talking about in terms of seeing the results, right? Of you getting this gift, right? And working hard, and you saw the results on the court. For me, I related to that, but in a very different way. I saw the results in the fact that I went from the maximum security prison to the medium security prison to the minimum security prison, right? Like the journey is the same. It's just a different playground, if you will, right? But I identify with all of that. But it made me think about the fact that if we weren't blessed with this gift, we probably wouldn't have got old enough to have the wisdom that you just get as being an older person, right? By living life, right? And you refer to the younger guys, like when you're on the meetings and just interacting with younger guys. I mean, I went to a bazillion meetings, but I didn't grow, right? I just didn't drink, right? And I worked on the outside, right? And because I was more concerned about what other people thought of me than what I thought of me, right? So I worked on getting some more gold chains and getting a fancy car and getting some nice stuff because I never had stuff. But the truth of the matter is, for a little while, that was evidence that it was working. And it was important evidence for me because prior to that, I couldn't, if I had something of value, I would sell it to get more, right? And I was able to hold on to things. And then it got to a place where I got to that jumping off point, if you will, that you talked about, right? About when you realize it's an inside job. It's not an outside job, it's an inside job. It's about how I feel, not how I look, right? And not the way you perceive me, but the way I perceive me. And I got to that place, and I was at a convention, a young people's convention in Atlanta, thinking about jumping off the roof. 5 years without a drink or a drug, thinking about jumping off the roof of the hotel, you know? And the only thing I could come up with, Chris, was getting to the ground floor because I couldn't jump off the ground floor, you know? And that was the beginning for me. God laid out a plan right there and right for me. I got me to the ground floor, got me into the overflow room of the banquet because I was too cheap. No matter how many gold chains I had, I wouldn't pay the fee to get in, right? And I was in the overflow room, and a guy was standing up at the podium, and he shared his truth. And I didn't identify with the details of his truth, but what I did was I saw how courageous he was in telling his truth. And I felt like, here's a guy, his truth was so outrageous too. And I won't share it because it's not mine to share, but it was completely outrageous. And I was like, here's a guy, finally a guy, what am I going to tell him that's going to shock him after all that he just shared about himself? And it made me feel safe. And that's that human connection that you were talking about, right? It's that we can open up to another human being, and we know that we can't save our face and our ass at the same time, right? We got to save our ass, right? Because, you know, the alternative for us is ugly. Hey guys, Jim Wahlberg here from The Bottom Line. Exciting news. This week's episode is sponsored by my book, The Big Hustle, A Boston Street Kid's Struggle with Addiction and Redemption. You can find it on Amazon and oursundayvisitor.com. Check it out. Hey guys, Jim Wahlberg here from The Bottom Line. Listen, I just want to remind you, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page at Wall Street Productions. And I also want to remind you, push that little bell. Just push it, man. It takes 1 second. Then that will notify you when anything's going on with The Bottom Line. Thanks.